This segment is brought to you by JigMasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to JigMasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
What's up, everybody? This is the Chasing the Tide Saltwater segment with Paddle and Fin podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Nichols, so come along for the saltwater shenanigans.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Chasing the Tide Saltwater Fishing Podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network. I'm your host, Dustin Nichols, and tonight we're joined by a special guest, Sean Rastanis. Rastanis. I got it. See, I was hoping I wouldn't butcher your last name. That's one thing I was like, we even talked before I hit this record button here, and just to get it right, for some reason I see that word, I want to say Rasta, but it's, yeah.
It's been 20 years since I've been Rasta, so
probably been butchered more than I did, probably over the years. So.
It has been.
Yeah, man. Well, I met a few of you guys over at the Hobie Bass Open on Seminole. I know y'all just had a trip over to my way North Texas up towards Lake Fork and fish that one up there and can justify some of the brutal conditions that lake can throw at you. Yes. We don't mind talking about freshwater on this show because, it's all fishing is good to go. But yes, I do like to concentrate on the saltwater side of things on this one. But, man, I'm stoked to have you on, man. I appreciate you getting on here with me. And can you introduce yourself to everybody and, tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Sean Rastanis. I guess my handle, I don't know what the kayak people call it. The things I go on the forums and things. I'm Darth Yacker because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, obviously. Grew up in the 70s and, young boy in the 70s. And
Same here.
live in Metairie, Louisiana, which is, just minutes from New Orleans. And, so I'm married, got a 10-year-old daughter. And my life revolves around my family, my work, and my kayak club. Actually, I probably do more with the club than I actually do with fishing. It seems because we're always doing something. And it's easier to hop online and do something, or write something down, or try to do things. So I enjoy every minute of it.
Oh yeah, and for those of y'all that don't know that, he's talking about the Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club. So tell everybody about that. Tell them a little bit about that while we got that topic fresh on our minds right now.
So I joined the club probably about 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, I guess. Bayou Coast has been around for a lot longer. I understand it's probably one of the largest kayak fishing clubs in the nation. We have over 500 paid members, I think. Cool. That pay an annual membership, and then we have close to 5,000 or 6,000 people on our Facebook group that contribute, and come in. Kayak Angler Magazine actually interviewed one of the guys who started the club, Todd Lewis. Todd's a great guy, and apparently we have two of the oldest kayak tournaments in the nation. Our Paddlepalooza, I think, is the oldest. We're actually hosting. I don't know if it's our 15th or 16th Paddlepalooza. And our 15th annual Fall and Tide this year. So this thing started back in 2005, when kayak fishing was probably still in its infancy.
Definitely.
Yeah, and now you're seeing it exploding.
Yes.
With especially, you got Bassmaster now
yes.
Involved in it. Obviously Hobie's got their thing. They're on their second year, Bassmaster.
Yes.
The Hobie Worlds is a huge deal. I think more and more people are getting to know about the Hobie Worlds. That's one of those tournaments that you're doing it for the privilege. It's not about the money.
Right.
It's not about the prizes or anything like that. It's all about getting an opportunity to go fish against some of the best fishermen in the world.
In the world.
Yes. Because there are countries. You've got Australia, Brazil, China, U.S.,
Japan,
Canada,
Sweden, all of Europe, everywhere. It's like
all of these
you get to represent your nation.
Yeah.
And go and fish against everybody else, man.
Yeah.
And then last year it was in Australia where they caught the sea brim. They were fishing in like Sydney Harbor or wherever they were last year. I can't exactly remember where, but it looked insane.
We're actually fortunate enough in our club to compete against Steve Lassard. Don't know if you know Steve,
Yes,
but the only
through the
two-time
IFA, I've heard his name quite a bit in the
the only
IFA.
two-time Hobie World Champion
Yes.
fishes in our club, so we get to fish against him in every
Oh,
tournament.
wow.
So,
Wow.
you kind of pace yourself. It's like, okay, if I could beat Steve in this tournament, I did pretty good.
Yeah.
He's definitely got the target on his back, but he's a good guy. He's very competitive. Brendan Bayard's another guy in our club that fishes in the Hobie Worlds. We got a lot of the other guys that fish. Matthew Van.
Yeah.
He's out of Florida.
Man. He's out of
in our
Pensacola area. He's a stick, man. He's a stick.
Yeah, he's in the club. We get a lot of people from outside the state that come in. Especially recently, we started a championship series. I think we're going our 4th year now, and basically you qualify in the one tournament and then get to fish the championship, and it's limited to about 40 people.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get in, and the prizes are really good for 40 people. I mean, this year for our championship, I think this year I know we're giving away first place is a brand new native Slayer plus I think $2,000 in cash.
Oh, wow.
That's a $6,000 prize.
Pretty good prize pack. Well, didn't y'all just have was that you guys club that did the minimalist challenge?
Minimalist challenge, yeah. We
talk about that a little bit. That's pretty cool concept. There's a trail over here that did this for a while, and I want you to touch on that one too. Yeah.
Minimalist, despite it being one of the toughest times of the year to fish and being one of the toughest tournaments to fish, it's sold out every year for the last 6 or 7 years. And when I say sell out, we limit the number of people that enter because of the parking space. It's a shotgun launch from one area.
Oh, wow.
The anglers don't know about the baits until the morning of. So basically they show up with a kayak and their rods and reels. And the baits and the
terminal
hooks
tackle, a little bit of hooks too.
Hooks, no. Yeah, they I think they're allowed to bring swivels and that's it. Swivels, super glue, swivels and super glue. That's leader about material. It. In leader material, right. But so this year we had Berkeley Pure Fishing is actually was the sponsor, and they gave us a juke bait, and I think we had 5 soft plastics, various type of soft plastics, and so those are the only baits you're allowed to fish with, and it's one of those things that if you lose one, that's it. You're down to 5 baits.
Right.
So our prior club president actually one year rigged up a double rig. First cast, he got it hung up, lost 2 of his baits.
Oh, and, man.
It was tough, but this year we had a good turnout. January's a tough year to fish, and we were targeting, I think it was 2 reds, I think 10 trout and flounder, but no one ever catches a flounder in January.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, you'd be surprised what some of the bags brought in. It was just incredible what some of these guys were able to do in January.
Yeah.
With these baits. I mean, it's just incredible fishing.
Y'all drew some anglers in. Vince Ray came over from Mississippi, I think.
Oh,
y'all draw a big. I'm definitely coming over for some of these because we had a trail here called the Saltwater Survival Series, and that's what they would do too. They'd give you Egret Bait sponsored it, so you could have a topwater, you could have some of the voodoo shrimp or the kicking mullet, the mambo mullet, the little Bayou chub or whatever they're called. So you could have your own terminal tackle, jig heads, and like a popping cork or whatever. But you could put the soft plastics on there, but once you lost them, that was it. You had I think the last one they did away with it last year. That was the last part of the series that did away with, but it really levels that playing field and makes it pretty fun,
It does. It does, and then we get people wanting popping corks a lot, and sometimes if they get a top water, what they'll do is they'll tie a leader onto that top water and try to use it as a cork. I've done it before. I haven't caught anything with it yet.
That's the deal here in Texas. There's a company actually calls it a 212 rig, and they sell it as a small Spook Junior style bait with about an 18-inch leader tied on with a jig head, and they sell it in a package. They're marketing that. That's what's a big thing down in Laguna Madre and South Padre area and stuff over here. So that's funny you say that they were like rigging it up to use it.
No, so I mean, we had we limited to club members get the first shot because we are limited. It's 135 spots.
Okay.
And we sold out this year. I think was a record. We sold out in 4 days. I think we sold 120 spots in the first 48 hours, and then the next 15 spots over the next 2 days. We had guys from Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. And those are guys that have, they're paid members. We didn't have any non-paid member get into the tournament. Unfortunately, we just didn't have enough room, to accommodate everybody. But it's a lot of fun. It's one of those tournaments like Lake Fork this past weekend. It's like, you're cursing and you're swearing under your breath and you hate it. And then at the end of the day, you're like, I can't stand this tournament. And you walk away. I'll see you guys next year.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'll be back. I'll be back.
You just want more of it because eventually you're going to hit it on the right day and you're going to do good.
Well, I know we have quite a few listeners here in Texas. I hope we're branching out and get some more listeners elsewhere. That's why I'm trying to bring on guests from all over the Gulf and up the Eastern Seaboard.
Absolutely.
With our similar fisheries and everything. And the same type of fish, redfish, trout, flounder, we love to chase. So as far as you don't have to be from Louisiana to join your club, correct?
Oh, no,
so I could,
not.
being in Texas, so I could join. What is the yearly dues to join the club?
I think it's either $25 or $30 a year, and basically, it gets you access into the forum, but it also gets you entry first in line for Minimalist Challenge, but also it gives you entry into our championship series, which anybody can fish those tournaments, but you don't earn points for Angler of the Year, and we pay out our top 5 Angler of the Years.
Oh,
and
cool.
I think
awesome.
first place Angler of the Year is like $1,000, so it's not bad. And then you get you qualified for the championship series, which again, last year first place was $2,000, second place was $1,500, third place was $1,000. And again, you're only competing against 40 people, and the entry fee is like $40-$50. So it's a pretty good payout at the end of the year.
That's pretty cool.
Or $40 or $50, entry fee. And we try to do it to some of these bass tournaments, the entry fees are extremely high. They're $235, $250. We try to keep it down. Most of our tournaments are $30 to enter, simply because we try to keep it for people. We recognize that some people live paycheck to paycheck. We got some younger guys. We got guys in college. Yeah. We've had guys in high school. $30 is a lot for some of these people, Yes. So we want it to where everybody can fish, if they want to compete. It's about getting together. I mean, I look at it as getting together. I love competing, but boy, I love getting together with these guys. We have a great time.
Yeah, the camaraderie is what kind of drew me into the whole tournament scene. Like we were talking before, I'd been saltwater fishing for quite a while, and I did a few tournaments here and there, some IFAs and some stuff like that here and there. But mainly, I fun fished a lot, But then, I found out there's this whole other world of the bass fishing side of thing, and it was just like, and I was still paddling at the time. I still paddle a lot now. I have quite a few paddle kayaks that I still like to sneak in the marshes that you can't get a boat in, and kind of sneak back in the back canals and everything, and some marsh lakes and stuff. So, when I found out that, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like a whole nother world out there. And it just, it took off. It's just like, I was like, I didn't know what to do. There was just so many tournaments, and then trying to fish both fresh and salt. It's just like, which one do I pick?
Yeah, I'm dealing with that same issue right now, and it's tough. Fortunately, we don't have any tournaments in February, and February, generally speaking, can be one of the worst times of the year, at least in my opinion. I know some people disagree with me, to fish in Louisiana. But boy, I mean, 2 Hobie Bass Open tournaments in February. I was like, this is lining up perfectly.
It's lining up good.
Yeah.
February in my area is usually I'm finding, deep shell and channel swing and drop offs with ledges and stuff, and usually chasing some pretty good speckled trout, this time of year. So
they're catching them right now. They're catching them on top water under a cork over here. We have a tournament next month, and I've talked to guys. They were going out yesterday, today. I mean, they're limiting out on trout right now on top water. It's crazy in February.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we got a big
warm
Arctic blast coming through here tonight, which is, if for everybody listening, this is recorded on Fat Tuesday. So I'm keeping Sean here from out partying with everybody else on the streets of New Orleans, keeping him safe and sound at home tonight, yapping with me on the podcast here. But yeah, man. So what area is that you're talking about right now, where they're hitting all the trout?
So actually, it's in Golden Meadow, Louisiana, which is on Highway 1, probably about an hour outside of New Orleans. We're actually going to be doing a podcast next week on our podcast about it. We have a tournament in March that's a trout tournament, 10 trout, 1 flounder. You know, most of our tournaments are not CPR because, you know, we've lowered the limits. We have really generous limits in Louisiana.
Yes, they
I mean,
do.
our trout limit is 25 a person. That's probably going to change because there's been
the
coming
fishery.
up. But, you know, we normally do our tournaments maybe a 10 trout limit at the most. Sometimes 5. It just depends. And so for this tournament, it'll be 10 trout, 1 flounder. In March is just a
the
great time.
The redfish is still 5.
5, yeah.
And there's
5.
a 20 to 27 inch slot. Is that
no? 16 to 27.
16 to 27, and the trout is 25 at 12 inches or bigger.
So the trout is 12 inches.
Right.
And there's no size limit on them except I think in Lake Charles area.
Yeah.
But the rest of Louisiana,
25 is the bag. See, here
you can keep anything over any size you want.
Right. Yeah, we could keep 10, and they could all have to be over 15. But recently we just went to 5. They have to be over 15, but we can only have 1 over 25 inches. And the years that we did that, they didn't do it on the north coast, north of the Colorado River, Matagorda Bay. They finally did that last September for the north coast of Texas. But the years that since we've changed in my area, I've seen a tremendous increase in bigger trout. It has helped it tremendously. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I just wish they banned those croaker. Sorry, I hate.
Yeah.
I wish they banned the croaker fishing. Using the bait, you know.
Louisiana is, you know, and I don't know a lot about the science behind it, but Louisiana is such a different estuary because it's a spawning ground, you know. I mean, right now March is the transition. I mean, if you get over a 25-inch trout in Louisiana, that's a trophy trout.
Yes.
You know, in Louisiana, you know, I've only caught 1 over 25, and that was a very special day that the stars all aligned. But you catch a 25+ inch trout in Louisiana, that is a big trout, you know. And down here, I know elsewhere it's you know it may not be common, but it's not all that uncommon to catch them. We get a lot of 12-inch trout. You know, and at 12 inches they're ready to spawn. Yes. And so I find the 12-inch ones taste better anyway. So.
That's how I feel about redfish. The ones right at 20, 21, you know, they don't have as distinct a bloodline. You can kind of trim a little bit away. You get rid of that kind of a strong taste. And the trout, I like the smaller trout. You get a trout over 17, 18 inches, they start getting a sandy texture to when you fillet them. They get a different texture to them. So, yeah, I like, if I'm going to keep some trout, I'm going to keep some smaller ones anyway. Same thing with the redfish. And black drum, I'll eat black drum all day long.
Black drum, sheep's head down here.
Sheep head. Lightly dusted in seasoned flour and make a lemon butter sauce in the pan fry. You can't beat that.
It's good. It's good stuff.
Good. Little lump crab meat on top. Yeah, those are good stuff, man. Black drum are fun. We got plenty of them to go around too. So, but yeah, like you're saying over there, 25-inch trout is that's a pretty big accomplishment over there. I mean, just to put things in perspective, I think the month of December I had 7 over 24 inches.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, 7 it was over 6. I know that. It was up there. Now, 24 and 27. My biggest was like 26.75. I hadn't bust 30 yet this year.
On a good day, you know, how many trout will you catch? I mean, if the trout are really, really biting.
The last time I really went out and put a hammer on them, we have some river estuaries that when we get these cold snaps, they move up into the deeper water. I want to say I probably caught 60 fish in probably 4 hours.
Yeah. It's about down here. Same thing. You can if you really get on them, you know. We had a championship tournament in November, and I mean to tell you some of the trout that were brought in, well, good trout over here, you know, 3-4 pound trout.
Yes.
But they were hammering them. I mean, they were hammering them that morning, and it was a spot I was heading to later in the morning. I just thought the water was too cold. It was 50 degrees, but they were there biting that morning. I was like, oh no, you know, I can't believe I didn't go there first thing. The guys that did obviously did really well in the tournament.
Usually that 50-degree mark is when they really, really like to slow down. I know some of the bigger trout are a little more hardy, and you'll find them up a little shallower than the smaller trout. When that water drops that low, especially in the area around where I fish on the central Texas coast, that I tend to find them. They want to, the smaller ones are staged out back over the drop off, and the big ones, as the day warms up, you get some sun heating the flats and stuff. Those fish will be right up on the edge in like 3-4 foot of water, and the smaller ones will still be out off that drop off quite a bit. So the bigger trout that you can find here sometimes solo cruising around, you can get on them sometimes. It's pretty cool to see all that and kind of see it over the years how it's almost like a pattern. You can kind of depend on it sometimes after those warm days. So it's fun to figure that kind of stuff out. So
it is.
It's man, I love saltwater fishing. I mean, yeah, I like catching them bass, man, but them saltwater fish taste way better anyways.
And, apparently keeping bass to fry them up is frowned upon from what I hear.
Yeah.
So
we used to eat them all the time when I was young. I'd rather catch like a white bass or like a speckled perch crappie. I'd rather catch those if I'm going to eat a freshwater fish. And those are running right now too over here. The white bass are thick right now. So, as we were talking out, we're trying to we're kind of touching on some of the differences in our fisheries where you live in Louisiana and where I'm at in Texas. So, I wanted to get in on what got you into kayak fishing. Did you start fishing at a young age and you just kind of just decided that, hey man, I can just throw a kayak in the back of my truck, or what got you going in that? I started rambling on earlier. I wanted to throw that in real quick before I forgot about.
Nah, so it's probably similar to a lot of stories. My grandfather used to take me out fishing when I was younger, saltwater fishing, and I loved it. And then my grandmother passed away at some point, and he moved on and he stopped fishing. And then I went to college and started working. And then you get out of it. At some point, I said, I was probably in my 20s. I said, I'm going to buy a boat. And I lived in Baton Rouge, and used to go on my boat. But it was always, you always hear people say, oh, I'll go fishing with you. And for some reason, it was always problems finding people to go fishing with you.
Yeah.
And I didn't like to go out on the boat by myself. Because it's just safety issues, I think, and it's a lot easier when you've got somebody with you to help you launch and get back in. I'd do it, just didn't like it, and I didn't find it as fun running around by yourself. Then about 7 or 8 years ago, I had some friends tell me, "Hey, you need to come out in this kayak," and I was like, "Man, plastic boat. I got a real boat," So it was kind of an odd time in my life because I was just a lot going on. Just had a new baby, issues at work, hitting 40 or so, and then you get a lot going on, really stressed. And they took me out, and it was for the Falling Tide tournament. It was the first time I ever fished in a kayak. I took third place Big Red. I was in a paddle kayak. Just had no idea what I was doing. I knew how to fish, but I just kayak. I took third place Big Red in that tournament. I was hooked. I then went the next 3 years without placing in any tournaments. But I tell you, I was in that paddle. It was my first kayak. I went and bought a kayak like 2 months later, a Perception Pescador, I think, from Academy. And
that's what I started out in.
A lot of people start out
11.5 foot Pescador.
Yeah.
I bought a seat that was a little higher. I have no idea how I used to fish out of that thing, like for real.
I stayed in that. I think I may have been in that one for 6 months, and I was like, I got to get a Hobie. So I actually got the Hobie the first time they came out with a new seat. And then one of the club officers in our club said, look, we see you're posting reports and seem involved. Would you like to maybe run for office and be one of the officers? We have 6 or 7 officers. I said, sure. I could do that. So I got into that. I started doing that, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. My wife, she's a good wife. She's a really good woman. She's a good wife. She's very tolerant with my fishing because she knows it means a lot to me. But I mean, if I showed you my cell phone today, I've got 5 different groups I'm in right now with different people about text messages about fishing just today on a Tuesday.
Yes. Same here.
We're talking about everything.
Same here.
From Ben Gate,
Yes. Yeah.
Ben Gate.
Everything's going off. Today.
I've seen people running simulations of boards and all this stuff. It's
pool noodles on boards. And, yes. What's funny about that is that a lot of the Texas guys were leading the pack on putting that out there, and I was like, oh my gosh, say lighten up, man. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if it made any difference or not, but I think the gentleman was probably so far ahead in second place it wouldn't have mattered.
Doesn't matter.
But I don't know. I don't know
Right.
enough about the facts to comment on really anything, so I'm not going to do that.
Same here. That's
Yeah.
why I stay out of things
I'm
like
going to
that.
kind of
I
wait
don't
for all the
know.
information to
Yep.
come in, you know.
Yep.
But as one of the
That's what I
tournament
said.
directors for our club, you know, I'm real interested to see because I want to see what Hobie does and how they do it because obviously, you know, we are moving into doing some CPR tournaments,
Mhm.
probably not so much with the trout, but more like redfish
Mhm.
because a lot of the guys like to catch the fish. They fish a lot of tournaments. They don't want to eat the fish. They really want to go out there for the sport. They enjoy sight casting them, fishing them, and releasing them. I mean,
Yes.
we've even got some guys that'll bring them in, do a live weigh-in with the redfish,
Yes.
and then release them if they can do it at the marina, which
Yes.
is really great, you know.
That's
So-
we have three trails here that do well, actually it's four because we have that one event. We have a event here called Ray Del Mar, and it's a 2-day event. One day you fish offshore, the next day you fish for redfish.
Wow.
So, and one day it's like a mixed bag, you know, snapper, ling, or kingfish, Spanish mackerel. And then they have a champion that day. They have a champion on the redfish. And then if you fish both, you got an aggregate weight and you're the king of the salt.
Now,
King of the sea.
is that all in kayaks?
That's all in kayaks
Yeah.
in Corpus Christi, Texas. Yes.
Wow. So I know
Yeah.
they do something similar in like the Pensacola, Destin area. I think
Yes,
they do.
they do something there too.
Yeah, I forget the name of the tournament. Maybe King of the Island or
King of the
something.
Island, something.
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's
the
the same-
kingfish and stuff you got to possess them, and you can't bring them alive. But the redfish, I mean, I termed it redfish fish with a partner of mine, and we got the full setup in the back with the injection with the bubbler and the separation little net to keep them separated and live and kicking. You put the G juice in there, stole that from like the bass side of things, and you know there's what 1, 2, 3 Lone Star Kayak Series, Saltwater Survival Series, Saltwater Angler Series, and then the Ray Del Mar. There's all live weigh-ins for the redfish tournaments and the Rudy Kayak Series too.
Yeah,
I think y'all have. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: when y'all go offshore, I mean, how far out are you going, guys? Are you guys going for like snapper and stuff?
3 to 4 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We can get to the short rigs or 3 to 4 miles out. Depends on we can drive on the beach here. So a lot of places you have a 4-wheel drive, you can just drive to where you want to launch and position yourself, and maybe have another guy with you that can set up in another spot, and you can kind of use the current to kind of drift back down, kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
We can't. I don't think we can do that in Louisiana. I mean, I don't know anybody that does. In Mississippi, they start the closest ones I think over here that we go to is Pensacola.
Pensacola, yes, sir.
And I know Brandon Barton and Matthew Van. They run some guide service over there, and I've been with Brandon a couple of times, and I had no idea you could go 2 miles out of Pensacola and catch red snapper. I mean, 20-pound red snapper out of a kayak. It's incredible.
Yeah, that tournament called the GOAT they're about to have in June. You know, they put that nearshore reef in Nevers.
Yeah.
Navarre, Nevers, however you say it. And they put that reef in. It's probably a 1.75 miles off the beach, and you're in like super deep water, and you can jig up snapper. I mean, they catch little small mahi like within like 2 miles of the beach.
Oh, I mean, look,
sailfish, 2-3 miles.
Sailfish. I went with Brandon this past summer. You know, they do tarpon out there too.
Yes.
And he's really gotten the hang of tarpon fishing. We hooked into one, and I was with my buddy. My buddy handled it for Brandon, hooked it up, handed the rod to my buddy. My buddy fought it for a while. We got a couple of good tail dances with it. He was like, "I'm done. You take the rod." So I said, "I'm going to get him now." So I cranked down on him. I got him up to the top, and then pops the line. It was probably 120, 125 pound tarpon.
Oh man, that's awesome.
You know, it's awesome. I mean, they've got some really good videos of that. Again, I had no idea the stuff you could catch out of a kayak the last couple of years. You know?
Yeah, it's super cool. We get a good times of year that we got a lot of tarpon moving here. You know, you luck into them in the kayak, but the majority of them we catch in like the backwaters, in like canals and stuff like that. We can catch the small juvenile ones here, and then we also have quite a bit of a snook population moving north up into our waters.
Really?
So we've I've caught some snook in my area, and especially around the Corpus, Port Aransas, even South Padre's got a lot moving up. But I've caught them as far up as here, and some other people have caught them in Galveston Bay, Colorado River, Matagorda Bay. You know, it's definitely changed. We have a lot of mangroves that have moved up, and I mean, you can't go out on the water without seeing the little beans floating around, like the little seeds.
Yeah,
you know, it's definitely moved up further north than what it used to be.
Now, have any of you guys made a trip over to Los Buzos yet in Panama?
Oh, not yet. I haven't. We had some of the guys from the team, from
Yeah.
Jackson, went over last year and had a good time. And you know, it just looks pretty dang rad. I want to go over there and catch some of them cabreras and a roosterfish.
So speaking on the Jackson team, I don't know, Chuck Banhan is
Yes.
he's on the Jackson team.
He's on our team. He lives in
Yeah.
Louisiana. And
He lives in Louisiana.
Scott Myers lives there too.
So I'm friends with both of them.
Yes, sir.
They're both good guys. So Chuck went with 4 or 5 other guys in our club. They went, I think, in December.
Yes.
And Chuck caught the pending IFA record roosterfish.
Yes, he did.
So it was a monster. But they caught all kinds of stuff, and I'm sure you've seen the video by now. The guy with the marlin.
Yes. Adam Fisk. He fished. I think he might still be on Jackson. He was in a Hobie when he caught that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's insane. That's the second one he's caught over there. This one was quite substantially bigger, and some of the footage that Robert Field got was just insane. Some of the jumping footage that he had, and man, it was insane. What a fish to catch on a kayak! It's like crazy.
It's incredible.
I'd be happy with a sailfish, 80-pound sailfish, much less a 500-pound marlin.
I would love a sailfish. Yeah, that would be a dream right there.
Yeah, that's a bucket list for sure. We had a guy here, Chris Castro. He was actually my first guest on the first segment of this podcast when we started it out. And he caught one off of Corpus Christi, probably 4.5 miles out, 3 miles out in about 42 foot of water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Just one of them deals. It's just like insane. That's all on YouTube too. He's next level fishing. He's a pretty good stick. He chases big trout. He's like me. This time of year, we like to chase those big trout. So, like the area you target a lot, you talk about Grand Isle and all that. Is that more of a marsh estuaries?
So Grand Isle is the only inhabited barrier island in Louisiana.
Okay.
We've got other islands. Most of them you have to get a boat to get to. Grand Isle you can drive. It's inhabited. I mean, people live there. It's a world renowned fishery, and they've actually been catching trout there year round for the last year or so, just because the winter's been warmer.
Right.
But really the area, what they call the Highway 1 corridor, if you look at a map, it's Highway 1 that takes you straight down all the way to Grand Isle.
Yes.
And the fisheries down there are incredible. I mean, you've got basons and Golden Meadow, which are really good, which is where we'll be fishing next month. Mm-hmm. Then you go down a little bit further, Leeville. Leeville's got some. Leeville's been known for giving up some really big trout in Louisiana. For some reason it tends to hold some really big trout. Then you go down, the next really place down further is going to be Grand Isle. So that's the one area. Most of that, I don't know if I'd really call it marshy area. I mean, they've got some marsh, but when I think of the marsh areas, I'll think more like in
further up.
Yeah, further up, like Delacroix,
Hopedale, Hopedale.
Well, Delacroix, Hopedale, and those places. Now those get real grassy. Right. You get some real clean water. You get a lot of fresh water mixed in.
Yes.
So literally, you're catching trout, redfish, bass.
Yes.
All in the same estuary. It's crazy. Yes. Then the other big area is going to be Highway 23, which goes down to Venice, Louisiana.
Venice, yes.
And so that's a whole nother fishery. It's kind of like probably those are the 3 big fisheries that at least our club fishes, because they're all within easy driving distance of that. Then you've got the Lake Charles area, which is completely different. Then it's more of a trout, I think, and flounder thing. They catch a lot of flounder over there.
And you guys tournaments, are all of them shotgun starts, or is there like a Roadrunner? You just kind of put in wherever any public launch you can.
Yeah. So this year I was doing something a little different. This is my 4th year as tournament director, and every year I mix them up, and I like to do different things. Last year we had a team
catch everybody
tournament.
off guard.
Yeah. Last year we had a team tournament. It was a lot of fun because you had to fish with a team member, and you couldn't fish. You had to be within sight distance of them.
Right.
So like no splitting up, and that was a lot of fun. It was challenging in its own unique way. But so this year we're doing more shotgun launches. Minimalist is one. The other one, I'm giving the option of like you can launch from 1 or 2 launches, and another one from the other 2 from 1 or 2 launches. And the reason really I did that was we've got a forum, we've got a website, and all that. But you find that more and more people are moving to Facebook because it's so much easier to get on. You can tag something, you can put things on, and it's done. When we started putting more emphasis on Facebook, we really found that we were just increasing in numbers. And we have people joining every day. It's crazy. And so we get a lot of new guys coming in, and I was trying to make it more competitive for those guys, you know. So if you've got places where, you know, like for instance, down Highway 23 can be a little tricky because there's all these different places you can launch, combat launches and all that, and it can be a little intimidating. But when you say, okay, this tournament we got in March, you can launch at one of these 2 launches. These are the only 2 launches you can launch from, right?
Right.
Everybody starts feeling they're a little bit more even playing field.
Right. Yes.
And so I do that for a lot of the new guys to get them used to an area maybe they're not fishing,
right,
and let them kind of explore those areas a little bit.
Yes.
I like for people to get out of their comfort zone and fish different areas, but I like to also try to make it as fair as possible if we can, you know.
Yeah, I love exploring. I love going to places I've never been and then putting it together and figuring it out. And that's one thing about, you know, me fishing over here, and then I'll go, say if I go over to Louisiana, you know, I don't have to go buy a whole new set of lures and stuff or different colors. Like some of the bass lakes, you might have to do that when you fish a bass tournament. I might have to change colors. That water might be more stained, or this might not work over there. I don't have any of those. We're catching them on this spinner bait, and we're catching them on this crankbait. I don't have crankbaits like that. You know, I mean, you can pretty much throw something together in saltwater and usually do pretty good if you figure it out. You know, shallow, deep, shell, find some structure, find grass lines, find pilings, you know, little marsh drains and stuff like that, depending on tide and salooner and all that good stuff. Because I look at everything when I fish, man. I'm a stickler for following my tidal influence, even if it's a wind-driven tidal movement, water movement. You know, stuff keys them fish to feed. And once you figure that out, you figure a lot out.
Look, I tell people, and I was telling people this week because we had some questions about falling tide coming up. Said, you know, our 2 big tournaments are in April, in October. And I said, in those 2 months, you could literally have these 2 baits on your kayak, and you can catch all 3 fish you need, which are redfish, trout, and flounder. I said, you have a topwater, and you have a voodoo shrimp under a popping cork. If you and really you don't even need topwater. If you have a voodoo shrimp under a popping cork, I have caught all 3 species and many of those species just on that one rig.
Right.
You just throw it all day and pop it, and you throw it against the bank. Eventually, you're going to catch a redfish, a flounder, baby, and a trout.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a deadly combination.
It is a deadly combination. Yeah, and you can change it up. You can always have one rigged up with a 6 to 8 inch leader, and you can have one rigged up with like a 24-inch leader, so you can fish those different depths with 2 different rods, and you're you're targeting different areas. A lot of time, them trout might pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
So, that's cool.
It's a real easy fishery. So these guys that maybe want to come in that are bass fishermen and like, I don't know, I'm gonna do saltwater and stuff. It's like, I mean, I'm seeing stuff. I'm fishing bass tournaments for the first time ever. And it's like, oh, geez, in October it was in Gunnersville with frogs. And then we were in Lake Seminole in early February. And the trick was finesse fishing with these little worms. And then this past weekend in Lake Fork, we were using, I think what I heard a lot of people were using were the jiggy, I keep calling them jiggy heads. I don't know, it's the football head thing with the worm and it sticks up in the air. Shaky head,
and a lot of people were punch rigs through the grass too.
Oh, the shaky head. If only I knew what that was.
Yeah. Hey, I use those for trout a lot of time on the deep shell. It looks like a sand eel over here. We get a lot of sand eels over here, and I'll throw the DOA snake oil on the shaky head jig head and can slay the trout on them.
Wow.
Yeah, I throw a white frog in the fall. I got a white popping frog always on a rod when they're way up in that grass for the redfish.
Oh,
yeah. Oh man, yeah, it's so much fun.
Down here in some of those areas where the grass gets thick, I mean, it's basically, Johnson weedless gold spoon.
Right.
I mean, that you have got to have one of those if you plan on fishing like Delacroix, Reggio, those areas in especially when you start getting close to that summer, the grass gets so thick and matted, And I tell people that's like one of the easiest baits to fish with. You just throw it out and reel it in.
We have some really cool ones. There's a company called Nacho Daddy spoons, and they make they're molded. They're acrylic spoons with a rattle chamber. They got built-in rattles. They're weedless, but unlike the Johnson that are heavy, these things just flutter so sweet. They flutter.
Check that out.
I'm gonna have to send you some.
I got to check that out. It's got a little rattle in it. It's
got a little rattle chamber. They Nacho Daddy spoons. Hey, I want some money on them things. They got a bone colored one with some red flake in it.
Oh,
that thing is money. They got a couple different sizes: 1/4 ounce, 1/2 ounce, 3/16. Yeah,
we got a big one coming up in May. So it's a redfish and bass tournament. If you can believe it, we're fishing for both because the area
that's pretty cool.
Is going to have it's a 2 redfish, 2 bass tournament, and you're fishing the same area. And I definitely want to try some of those spoons out in there. You know, that's awesome.
I have to get you. If I'll actually send you a couple because I got quite a few of them.
All right.
So, yeah, I need to get you some of them. But yeah, that's like fishing the Sabine River over here. You know, on the state line between Texas and Louisiana. That's the same kind of fishery over there. I fished a bass tournament over there back in the September 2018, and and I was pre-fishing over there throwing a black and blue rage swimmer and set the hook, and I was like, oh my, yeah, that's a solid bass. It's like a 26-inch redfish ripping it in. It's like wow, spotless for that matter. Like sweet. I said because I knew they were up there. It was a little further upriver than I expected to find them because I was up at the I-10 bridge near there, and they were up there a good ways. But they said, nah. We see them up here. We see them way upriver up here sometimes in some of the areas where I fish is, beyond brackish already. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, they're adaptable. They're there. The bass will come. Like I said, I'll catch trout, and then, 200 yards down the bank, I'll catch a bass, and it's just like, it's weird.
It is.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, it's already been like 41 minutes. We just rattling along here. So yeah,
you start talking fishing with somebody.
Oh, I know. That's how it is. That's the one thing about doing these podcasts. I love to talk. So my wife's like, you could talk to the wall and the paint will fall off. You talk to it so long. So man, but once again, man, I appreciate you coming on. I want to really, the main thing, what I really want to do is get on here and plug about the Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club and everything. But I wanted to plug that Fall and Tide tournament. So let's talk about that right now. Like let everybody know what we got going on in October. That's going to be a blast.
This was something I've been working on for a few months, and I actually got in touch with Morgan Prominence with Hobie, and my dream has always been to fish the Hobie Worlds. Not so much just like we talked about earlier, just to be able to go one day and fish it and hang out with those guys and meet some of these guys. And I said, I don't stand a chance at all fishing these bass tournaments because Hobie had a lot of their entries were in these bass tournaments last year. I said, there's no way I'm going to finish first in these. I don't fish for bass enough, and it's just not going to happen. Now I don't really have any realistic expectations of finishing first at a saltwater tournament, but I have at least a shot, right? Because I know what I'm doing to some extent there. So I called Morgan. I said, look, we would very much like to be able to host something. I think we can make it a real special event. I've been in contact with some of the clubs in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and we'd like to do it as like an annual thing and maybe even rotate sites where this year it'd be in Louisiana, cool. Maybe next year it'd be in Florida, or 1 year in Alabama. One tournament dedicated to saltwater. To bring these guys in from all over the country, especially the South, that would come in. Now, and so it took Morgan a little while. He contacted people and he got back with me and said, look, it's a deal. As long as y'all do a CPR tournament, we're good. So right now we're going through all the basically the rules and trying to figure out what we're going to do. And we know it's a CPR tournament. It's going to be October 24th, 2020 in Grand Isle, Louisiana. It's a one-day tournament. The redfish, we do know that it's going to be a slam, which is going to be your longest length of flounder, trout, and redfish. Now, we are going to cap the length of the redfish, and simply because we don't want everybody going out and catching 40, 45-inch bull reds. Yes. Okay. Right. We want it to be where you're staying in the marsh, you're really focused, and what you're trying to get, say if the redfish is 30 inches, the cap limit would be, I don't know if it's 30 or 31, we haven't decided yet, but you want to try to get as close as you can to 30. Well, the way the redfish run over here, it's like you get a lot of them at 28. 27 is the limit. You can keep one over 27, but 27 is generally the limit. You get a lot of them at 28, and then they seem to just skip 3 inches and start going at 32, right?
Yes.
So 30, 31, it's going to be difficult to find that redfish right there. The trout, the flounder, obviously. The trout, I think everybody's going to have a good time with the trout. October is going to be a great time of the year to fish.
Yes.
Flounder is going to be the key. Flounder are a little bit more difficult to catch in Louisiana, other than like Texas and Lake Charles even, and some of these other states that have these really good sandy areas. So last year we had a pretty good flounder caught as far as the numbers. But so we do things a little bit differently in our tournaments. Attending the Hobie Bass Opens, it's very different because you have basically AJ McWhirter and you have Kevin Nakata and those guys, and they are traveling to states that they don't live in, and they don't have a big support group, and they do a great job of getting this stuff together, Yes. But it's really just a couple of guys over there.
Right.
We have a group. I mean, we have 40 or 50 guys that'll come out and spend their time setting everything up. And so we get down there, we may get down there on Wednesday, and just start getting things ready. We usually have an informal gathering on Thursday where it's like a potluck and everybody's bringing food and cooking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then on Friday though, we serve dinner, and we have these guys. Used to be the Golden Girls. It was a group of older guys that cooked, and now it's the Little Rascals. But they do a pastalaya that's to die for. It's like a jambalaya, but with pasta.
Jambalaya with pasta. Yes, sir.
Exactly. It is fantastic. My buddy Eric Stacy leads it up. He does a phenomenal job cooking. We do salad and bread and all this other stuff. Typically on our Saturdays, when we catch the fish and we weigh them, we normally do a big fish fry. But this year, because it's going to be a CPR tournament, we're probably just going to have it catered. So those members will be served dinner. The people who are in the tournament will be served dinner Friday and Saturday night.
So that's part of the entry fee.
That's all
fed
free.
2 nights, and that's down in Grand Isle.
It's going to be in Grand Isle, Louisiana.
Bridgeside Marina.
Yeah, and so Bridgeside has cabins. There's RV spots. There's rooms. You've got I tell you, if you're coming in town from out of town, you get a group of guys. October is kind of off season for Grand Isle as far as the fishery. It's really a summertime thing. You can rent camps out there cheap. Like, you can get them $150 and sleep, a night and sleep like 10 guys. So I would encourage people to go on there and look at like Airbnbs or VRBO or something like that.
I'm looking at my schedule right now.
I'm telling you, I already took the days off of work.
I'm off that weekend.
You're going to want to come down early and fish because it's going to be you're going to be able to fish from Bason's Marina all the way down to Grand Isle. And we do a podcast. It's called Off the Water that I do, and it's on YouTube, and you can check it out. But we're going to be doing those podcasts that are going to be talking about each of the areas to fish and each of the launches and baits to use. Because at the end of the day, as much as I would love to win and qualify the Hobie Worlds, as a tournament director, I really want everybody to come down and have a good time. Yes, sir. And I really like for the people to come down and say, wow, that Bayou Coast, they throw on a hell of an event. So one of the other things you're going to get when you enter the tournament, first, the entry fee is probably going to be under $100, so it's going to be a good deal because you're going to get dinner Friday night and Saturday night. The other thing you get is a captain's bag. And this year, typically our captain's bag is going to include a T-shirt. Like, for instance, I got this shirt on. Yeah. I don't know if you can kind of see it, but you'll get this one, or it's going to be a long sleeve shirt, performance shirt. Cool. You're going to get a bunch of different baits. Our sponsors, you'll probably get, if I had to guess, $10 to $12 at least of baits in your bag, plus a $15 shirt, plus anything else that some of our sponsors want to put up. I understand that Hobie may have donated some swag recently. That's going to be pretty cool. So that's probably going to go in the bags as well. And then on top of that all, we have the 1 day entry. The 1 day tournament. Yeah. And the big thing is that when we have the meeting, right, there's multiple categories. Typically our categories are slam, which is your 3 fish, plus your big trout, big speck, and big flounder. And we pay, I think it was 10 places on slam and maybe 5 or 6 places on the other ones, depending on the number of people that enter.
Are those separate pots, or that's included in it? Oh, it's separate. Separate pots.
No. It's all included.
It's included in the entry. Oh, nice.
But these are different categories that you can place in. So say
cool.
you caught a big trout, but you couldn't catch your flounder or your redfish,
Yeah.
Now those are typically prizes instead of cash, but they're good prizes. I mean, it could be, like a Lowrance, or it could be like $200 rod or some setup,
Yep.
So we do those. This year it's going to be a little different because it's a CPR, so we're not sure, but we are going to have separate categories for these other fish. But the big thing is when everybody comes back for the weigh-in, we do the weigh-in, and we'll do the award ceremony. Everybody's eating dinner. There's a bar there at Bridgeside, and so people can have drinks. They can bring an ice chest and whatever they want to do. We certainly encourage people to stay on site, especially if they're going to be having a few drinks and just having a good time. So we get rolling. We'll do the award ceremony. We dinner. We'll do the award ceremony. Get over there. We award the Dogri Award for the person who did the stupidest thing at the tournament. We get nominations and we do that. It could be falling in the water. It could be losing the paddle, whatever. But then the big thing that after all of this happens, we do a big raffle. And this is how the club makes a lot of the money to support it. So everybody can buy raffle tickets. Now, the raffle's not free, but you can buy raffle tickets. I mean to tell you, we give away $200 ice chest, fish bags, rods and reels, Orion cookers. I mean, the sponsors that give us we've got some pretty big sponsors: Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, Berkeley, Backpacker, Pack and Paddle, Hobie, all this great stuff.
Pack and Paddle hooks y'all up, huh?
Pack and Paddle is actually sponsoring our championship series. So they're the ones in conjunction with Native that are donating the kayak for the championship. Backpacker normally sponsors and Backpackers in Baton Rouge our Fall and Tide and Paddlepalooza tournaments. So, and typically speaking, I don't know what the prizes are this year, but for as long as I can remember, the last few years, first place is typically speaking a brand new Hobie Pro Angler. Okay. Wow. So that's $3,500, $4,000 now.
Yes.
I don't know if we're getting a 360 or not. I would love it if we got a 360. But look, you can't bitch about getting a brand new, Pro Angler. No, second place is typically speaking a brand new Hobie Outback, and these are the slam categories. Everything after that is cash to the people that place. In addition to that, something that we're doing just for this tournament, whoever wins the tournament and decides to go, if you won, the big news is obviously if you win the tournament, you automatically qualify for the Hobie Worlds. That's the big thing this year. However, if first place for some reason decides they don't want to go to Hobie Worlds, okay, for whatever reason, maybe they've been before, maybe they just can't get off or whatever, new kid on the way, something like that, it would fall to second place and so on and so on.
Cool. So it's going to roll down. Okay.
It'll roll down, right. It'll roll down. I don't suspect it would roll down too far, but it'll roll down.
Yeah.
Now, what we're doing is that the person who wins and decides to go to the Hobie Worlds, we are going to provide $2,000 in cash in addition to their regular prize to help them fund them to Hobie Worlds. So they can pay for their travel, their hotel, and all that stuff, up to $2,000. So, because what we really want is for someone to not be able to go because they can't afford it, right?
Right.
I mean, if they came
that's such a big thing right there, man. So I'm calling out all my Texas anglers out here. We need to have a presence over here at this Fall and Tide tournament, because I know I will be there. I am not missing this one.
You guys, I mean, look, y'all got to start planning now. Come down. Y'all are going to have a great time. I mean, call me up. I will tell you guys where to launch at, what you're looking for, lures that we use. At the end of the day, I want everybody to come. Because look, here's the thing. Even if we don't host it next year, y'all are going to have such a good time. You can say, I want to go back for Paddlepalooza because we have a similar tournament in April. Paddlepalooza, same place, same fishery. It's a different time of the year, so it's a little bit different. But we get 250 people at that tournament, We'll
plug that one. What's the date on this one? That's coming up in April. So what's that one fall on?
That one's Paddlepalooza. It's April. Hang on, I'll tell you. I got it on my calendar. Let's see. Because I already took off for it. April 25th.
25th.
April 25th, 2020. That is a fun time. I mean, both of them are just great times. y'all are going to come down. You're probably going to know some people. I mean, we get people from all over the United. We get Texas, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. All those people come down. I've had commitments from guys that are going to be fishing our Fall and Tide tournament from South Carolina. I think a guy from Colorado, Utah, that have already said they're going to be coming down.
Oh, I'm in like Flynn, buddy. Boy, my days fall off perfect, so I'm good.
You're going to have look. And here's the great thing about it: when you're pre-fishing, you be able to keep your fish. Now for you, I mean, you catch speckled trout and redfish anyway, right? A lot of these guys coming in that may be used to fishing for bass and stuff like that, you come in, you keep your fish if you want. You be able to sit there and clean them, and go back home and bring back some speckled trout fillets, redfish fillets, etc. And especially with the trout, I don't think you have to worry about, that trout may be there tomorrow, so I better put them back.
Well, there's probably some restaurants there that you take them and they'll cook them for you.
So we have they got some good restaurants in Grand Isle. But again, with us feeding you guys Friday and Saturday, you probably
won't have to do too much cooking. That sounds like a plan right there. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah, so, and Hobie, I understand Hobie's gonna have some guys down as well. I don't know who it is yet. I'm hoping I've been talking to AJ, and I hope he can make it down. And some of these other bass guys, I'm encouraging
Brian Nelly, Jason Broach. I'd like to see some of them guys come over. I've had them both on the podcast. Those guys are both solid fresh and saltwater anglers. I'd like to see some of them guys come over. Matt Van, I'm sure he'll be over. I want to have him on here one of these days.
Matthew Van, I'm sure will be there. Brandon Barton. I know those guys are coming in for sure.
Yeah. There'll be some sticks there for sure. I can guarantee you that.
Look, there are going to be some world-class anglers there, but I always look at this tournament, I'll be honest with you, I kind of look at it as like the World Series of Poker, right?
Right.
Where you can be kind of a rookie and realistically, you're only looking for 3 fish, right?
Yes.
And it's a one-day event, and your redfish is capped. If you can find a nice flounder, because some of these guys are great fishermen, but I tell you what, if you can't find that flounder, it's all over. I mean, because that's 12 inches. You're not weighing in right there.
Yep.
If you can find that flounder, you got a shot, right? Anybody's got a shot if you can find that flounder. So that's what makes this tournament great, because I think this one more than anything else is going to give average Joe the chance to come in and qualify for the Hobie Worlds where maybe they couldn't do it, So
is there a minimum length on the flounder to measure? Being this is CPR, 8 inches or 12?
Probably going to be 12. I think it may be 11. I have to double check.
Okay.
We usually have a minimum length. It's either 11 or 12. I always have to go back and double check. So
the trout minimum will be 14?
12.
12.
Yeah,
okay.
12-inch trout.
I'm thinking over here. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's going to be 12-inch trout. And the redfish, I think the redfish will probably be capped at 30 or 31 inches. Which would be good. And look, for some of these guys that have never caught bull reds before, in October, you're in the marsh.
It's a prime time.
You're in the marsh throwing a top water. You would not be. You're gonna go on a sleigh ride.
Sleigh ride.
Yep. And it'll be. It's one of those kind of bucket list things when you catch a 40-inch bull red, 35 pound redfish, he's top water, and he's pulling you down. You're gonna have a good time.
Oh, it's a blast.
Even if you catch nothing else, that'll be your ticket.
Highlight of the trip right there. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Well, cool, man. Well, thinking about Pack and Paddle, I know they got beer and gears coming up here in a couple weeks.
They do, and actually we've got
Lafayette. I think I'm coming over there.
Really?
I'm supposed to fish a tournament on Rayburn the 7th, but I think I'm bailing and coming to Pack and Paddle with my territory sales manager and one of the other guys from Texas is going to come over. I know we got some people down in Point of Shane. So I might be coming over to fish one day and then heading to the beer and gear. So, talking about that, I'm excited because I heard that's a blast too.
It is. We're going to have a booth there. And actually, we've got John Williams with Pack and Paddle on our podcast next Tuesday.
Oh, sweet. He's going to plug the beer and gear, huh?
He's coming on to talk about beer and gear. Absolutely. So I know
so there's an offshoot chance that I may be there.
You need to go up. Tyler Caldwell, I'll put you in touch with him. You need to go up to our booth and talk to Tyler. I think Josh Thompson, our club president, will be up there. So yeah, I hear it's a real good time. I'm supposed to be moving into my new house.
Oh, there you go.
So I'd be there.
Oh man, but yeah, well, cool deal, man. Well, once again, man, I thank you for coming on the podcast with me and chatting all about a good thing y'all got going over there with Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club, man. It seems like y'all got it down, man. Y'all got a lot of good members that support the kayak fishing community. Y'all got a lot of events. Seems like y'all give back. So man, I'm stoked at some of these events coming up, and I appreciate you taking the time tonight to come on the podcast with me, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Dustin, man, I tell you what, I really appreciate the invite coming on here and being able to talk about the club. I got to give a lot of credit to the guys that were there before me that started this thing. They started out with 30 or 40 guys, and now we're in the thousands really on Facebook and
Wow.
stuff. And,
Yeah, that's awesome.
hosting Hobie World events, and it's phenomenal. I'd really like to have you on my podcast, Off the Water. Have you
sweet.
talk about Texas fishery and stuff like that?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm down for that, man.
I feel like we may have some more conversation in us that we can spill over to that.
Oh, I can still go, man. That's how I feel all the time. It's like, man, it's put on an hour. This is I don't know. I listen to podcasts all the time because I'm on the road nonstop, man. I'm always going somewhere. So it's definitely taking the place of the music. I listen to music here and there. I do love my music, but man, once I found out about kayak fishing podcasts and how many there were out there, actually, I was like, man, this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I was listening to them a long time before I was approached to start doing my own. And I was like, man, I do talk to the wall. I can talk to anybody. So it's a good deal, man. So yeah, I'd be stoked to come on too, man. So
absolutely. We're going to get you set up here.
We'll get it set up on that. So yeah, man, once again, thanks a ton for coming on. Everybody, don't forget, check it out. You can go on Facebook, Bayou Coast Kayak Fishing Club. They actually have a website too.
Yep.
Right? Correct?
Yeah, if you go on to bckfc.org, you can actually go on there. If you click on the Bayou, the Fallen Tide Hobie World Qualifier event, you can put in your email address, and what we'll be doing is we're going to be emailing updates as like when registration's opening, any important announcements in that regard. So you can do that. We're on Facebook. Almost all of our tournaments are open to anybody. So if you guys want to come in for Paddlepalooza, we have Trout Challenge in March. We've got a couple of redfish tournaments coming up. We got a tournament coming up in Pointe-a-Chin in September. That'll be a redfish tournament over there. So we got a lot going on. Love to have you guys come down here. I'd be more than happy to show you guys around. I may not be the best guide, but I can at least take you, to where I think the fish are, and we can have a good time together.
Right on, man. Sweet. Well, everybody, y'all hear that? Open invitation right there. Sean's
Absolutely.
a guide. He's going to take us out.
I'll take you out.
Well, cool, man. Well, hey, I hope everybody enjoyed this segment tonight. Once again, this wouldn't be possible without you guys, the listeners. So, give us a like, give us a good reviews, share this on your platforms as you can. Help us spread the word of this kayak fishing community that is great. And we thank y'all for tuning in. And until next time, later. Peace.
Go check out the website, guys, paddle_fin.com. Also check out YouTube, youtube.com/paddleandfin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest, feel free to email us at paddle_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're doing giveaways, announcements, things like that at Facebook and Instagram at paddleandfin. Shout out to our show supporters, Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayak, Hammered Lures, Fish Mob Lures, TRC Covers, Ketch Products. Go to ketchproducts.com. You could put the Paddle and Fin logo right on your catch board. Don't forget to go over and pick up your JigMasters Jigs. Use promo code PNF20 and save 20% today. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps grow the audience, helps others find our podcast. So please drop a 5-star rating in on the podcast platform you're listening on. Don't forget about the recycled plastics program, you guys. Take your used plastic baits, put them in an envelope, mail them to the address in the show notes. Our man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures melts those down, makes new baits, and donates them to various chapters of Heroes on the Water.